what satisfies me, says Jesus? My obedience is to the will of the Father, because I know that I cannot do nothing without him. And then look at this. Isaiah. This one's going to hurt. Isaiah 53, please. There you are. Isaiah 53. For those of you who are not familiar with Scripture, Isaiah 53 is a vision that Isaiah has about Jesus without Jesus even being manifest. So he does such an extraordinary work with this chapter. If you have time, please read it at home. But let's pick it up in verse 6. I'm just going to read a few verses. We all, like sheep, have gone astray. Each of us has turned to his own way. And the Lord has laid unto him the iniquity of us all. He was oppressed and afflicted, yet he did not open his mouth. He was led like a lamb to the slaughter, and as a sheep before his shearers is silent. So he did not open his mouth. By oppression and judgment he was taken away. And who can speak of his descendants? For he was cut from the land of the living. For the transgressions of my people he was stricken. He was assigned a grave with the wicked and with the rich in his death, though he had done no violence, nor was any deceit in his mouth. Now look at verse 10. Yet it was the Lord's will to crush him and cause him to suffer. And though the Lord makes his life a guilt offering, he will see his offspring and prolong his days, and the will of the Lord will prosper in his hands. When I read the scriptures, I think about the pressure that Jesus had to be obedient to the Father and doing obedience to the max and still have to pay the price of guilt. What we're saying is that Jesus did everything he had to do, and he ended up in the cross. He was obedient to the Father to the end and ends up in the cross. How do you reconcile those two? How do you reconcile the fact that you were obedient to your Father, you did everything he wanted you to do, and now you're going to be crushed, and that is part of the will of the Father, that you'd be crushed, that you would be brought to the cross. When I was sharing with the pastors yesterday, I told them, you know, I'm 51 years old. I think that at 51, you have a little bit of maturity. Not a lot, but a little maturity. You're considered in any place a person that has accomplished something in life. I told the pastors I've pastored with Miriam, a pretty good congregation. Pretty good congregation. What do you guys think? Pretty good congregation. Good congregation. Just I've been able to write a book. I've been able to travel to many nations of the world. I've been able to have breakfast with President Bush and then President Obama and a bunch of pastors. I've been to places. And yet, when I go home, my father still speaks at me like if I was 18 years old. He still tells me that I have a lot more to learn. He still makes me feel like I don't know much, like I haven't done much. Fathers tend to do that, huh? You think you did everything right. You accomplished everything. I got married right. I did everything right. I honored my wife in the altar. I did everything that I was supposed to do. And yet there's still times where he looks at me and says, oh, you're still a young guy. You still don't know. That, in a way, is crushing to you. Can I confess a little bit? It's crushing to you. Let me heal here, okay? Because you expect your father to look at you and say, son, I'm proud of what you've done. Once in a blue moon, he might give you a hint that he's proud of you. But if I leave the room, if I'm not there, oh, my son Jeremiah, he has the biggest church in Hartford. My son Jeremiah, he wrote a book. He tells everybody, but he won't tell me. So if I want to know how my father feels, I got to talk to somebody else. Hey, what did my father say about me? And Jesus is saying, listen, my obedience was such that even though I did everything picture perfect, I submitted to the will of my Father. I did everything He asked me to do. And still I was supposed to be crushed and go to the cross. But I submitted to obedience. So when we go back to Ephesians chapter 6 and we read it again, children, obey your parents in the Lord. What are we talking about? Are we talking about obedience that is temporary? Are we talking about an obedience that's light? Or are we talking about obedience that requires sacrifice? Are we talking about obedience that Jesus demonstrated? It's not my will, but my Father's will. It's not, what feeds me is doing His will, even though I know I do everything perfectly. I know I have to be crushed. Is that the kind of obedience it's asking for us? And I would say yes. It's a different degree of obedience. Can any of us honestly say that we can live to the standard of that obedience? Or have we all fallen short of that degree of obedience? I want to believe that I've been obedient. But I don't know if every day I've been able to accomplish the definition of obedience according to the life of Jesus. So when that text hit me, I had to evaluate myself and say, whoa, this is not just obedience. This is obedience in the Lord. This is a whole different ballgame. Because ask me today, is it easy, Pastor, to be obedient? Ask me. Somebody ask me. Somebody ask me. No! Thank you for asking. But no, it's not easy to be obedient. Is it easy for you? It isn't easy for me either. I want to. I have a desire. I wake up every morning wanting to be obedient to the Lord. I want to be like Him. And yet, life hits me. So what I want to suggest to you this morning is when He says, children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. He brings up obedience to a different level, an obedience that we don't see too often. Have you ever been to a supermarket and see a mother and a child struggle? And see, I think I opened up some wounds this morning, and see a 3-4-year-old look at his mother and say, shut up! Or say to the mother, I'll kill you! Or say to the mother, leave me alone! And you're not the parent of that child, but you say, if they only would give me 1 second in this room alone with this kid, I would teach him some manners. I must confess that sometimes Pastor Miriam and I say, if they only would give us that kid for 1 week, we'll send him back and he'd be a different kid. Just give me 1 week. 1 week. And close down DCF for 1 week. I'd show that kid what it is to be obedient. But we have a problem in society, parents, and we have contributed to that problem. Because when that teacher comes to you and tells you that your son did something wrong, the immediate reaction is, my son is not like that. But how well do you know your son or your daughter? We don't. I thank God, because I was brought up in church, and you know, deacons have their reputation. I thank God the deacons of this church are not like that, but deacons have their reputations. You know, all the children's pastors' kids, they know what I'm talking about. Deacons have their reputation. Or those of you that grew up in church, you know, deacons have their reputation. They sometimes say stuff that you didn't do, and they say you did it, especially if you're a PK, a pastor's kid. I thank God that my parents always were able to hear us and then go to the deacon and hear them and then come back to us. But today, parents, they go to school, they go to places, and they're already in fight mode. They have issues with their children at home. There's a lack of discipline at home. Their children doesn't do anything they ask them to do, but all of a sudden when it comes to the teacher, they present their kid as a kid that does everything right, does not commit any kind of offense. Be real with your kid. If he doesn't listen to you, what makes you think he's going to listen to the school teacher? I know it's going to get tough here, but that's all right. I already got paid on Friday, so I'm okay. My son would never do that. You could never say that. You should never say that. Because in any moment of our lives, we could do things that we're not supposed to do or we don't want to do, but we did them because we were mad. And that takes us to the second part that I'd like to share with you, and I'm not going to finish today, so we'll come back to it. Because verse 2 says, honor your father and mother. And then it says, it throws this wrench in there and says, which is the first commandment with a promise, that it may go well with you and you may enjoy long life on earth. How many want to enjoy long life? You don't have to buy no creams or vitamins or anything else. Be honoring your father and your mother and you'll have a long life. That's the secret to a long life, to honor your father and your mother. But Bishop, you don't know my father. Honor him. Have you met my mama? Don't have to meet her. The word says, thank you very much, but the word says you honor her. Honor doesn't have anything to do on how you feel about somebody. It has everything to do on how you recognize the authority of that person over your life. So I can feel real bad about my father, but I don't take his honor away from him. And that's what we've done as a society. We do it with the policeman, we do it with the teacher, we do it with anybody in authority. All of a sudden, you're on 91 North going towards Enfield Mall. Speed limit is 65. I know. You're doing 77. And all of a sudden, on exit 37 going down the hill, there's a cop you can't see, but he's there. You have been warned. Come on, people, you're supposed to be more awake than the morning service. He catches up to you. And as soon as you see those lights, you start making up excuses. You have a reason for being over the speed limit. And when you see the policeman, the first thing that comes to you is defile rather than honor. That man gets paid a salary to make sure that we all follow the law, that we're all safe, that you're not a danger to yourself or nobody else. But we don't see cops like that. By the way, I'm a chaplain in the Hartford police. I get paid. No, sorry, that's not true. That's not true at all. We don't get paid at all. But they're there for a reason. All of a sudden, he stops us. We always have an argument. And little do you know that if you honor his position, you might get out without a fine. But because you start arguing, this is not fair. Why are you stopping me? There was two other cars right next to me, and they were speeding equally. But why are you picking on me? Is it because of my color, or is it because of this, or is it because of that, or because... No, it's because you were speeding, ma'am, or sir. I sounded more like a ma'am than a sir there, but, you know. Here's my license. Here's my registration. I can't believe you guys. Shouldn't you be eating donuts somewhere? If you're disrespectful to the position, then grace is not given unto you. But if you look at that cop and you say, sir, you are correct. I was speeding. I'm in a little rush. I got distracted. I apologize. More than likely, that man is not going to abuse of his authority. More than likely. Now, just don't try to test my theory, please. But I find that they are graceful when you honor their authority. When you honor a teacher and you respect her authority, or a principal, or someone in authority, or that baseball coach or the basketball coach. Oh, no basketball coach is going to mess around with my kid. Settle down. Give honor to that person that's trying to teach your children maybe some manners, or maybe teach them some rules in life. Do you know that a baseball game, a basketball game, being in a team will show your kids how to work in life? So don't just look at it as a game. Look at it as an instruction for that kid's life. And if you defy the authority, that coach, that principal, that teacher, you're stripping your kid from the possibility of respecting any kind of authority, including yourself. Hello. Anybody out there? Okay. I've been stopped a few times. Yes, me, the bishop, must confess unto the Father and all of you, I've been stopped. I could tell you that in my whole lifetime, I've only had 2 tickets. But I've been stopped. One day I get stopped. I wanted to make it to a meeting at a certain time, and I was a little behind. And I knew that this cop looked like he was upset. Maybe his wife did not give him coffee that night. So I took out my wallet, and I have my badge there. So very intentionally, I'm opening up my wallet very slowly, making sure that the badge comes out first. So the guy caught on to me. He says, "Bishop, that's not what that badge is for. But have a good day." And he let me go. But he taught me a lesson. Just because I had a badge that they respect. Because I didn't have to go to academy for my badge. I have a full uniform of rank. My badge is a gold badge. It's not a silver badge. It's a gold badge. I have authority. He was teaching me something. Just because you have that in your wallet, that doesn't exempt you from following the law. Oh, you guys thought I was real holy and I did never go over the speed? Yeah, I do. It's happened. Thank God for that badge. No, sir. But that cop taught me a lesson that day. Oh, I got a story for you. There was a pastor from this. There was a pastor, one of our pastors from this church. We've had 4, so you don't need to. We've had 5, so you don't need to know which one. Got stopped by a cop one day, and he says, "Well, I'm a pastor." He goes, "Oh, really? You're a pastor? Then I'm going to give you a double fine because you should know better." So I don't use that line anymore. I don't use that line that I'm a pastor. I'm not getting 2 tickets. But we're talking about honor, honoring. The word says, honor your father and honor your mother equally, both. And it says, because this is the commandment that has a promise to it. The promise is that you will have a long life and that things will go good for you. So this is what I'm going to say to you, because I'm going to pick this up next week with some text to help me with this honor part, because it's awesome. But I want to tell you this. I don't have to agree with my father to honor him. As a matter of fact, I could be in total disagreement with my father, and I don't take his honor away. We need to go back to those times that, nobody talks about your name or your father's name, because you are a defense to that name. You are a defense to the honor of the name of the family. You don't do that with this unhealthy pride that I'm a Torres, therefore look out, world. A Torres is here. But I should honor the name of my father. I should honor his name and my grandfather's name, and lived up to the standards and the values and the morals that they have taught me, because people know who they are, so they will put you in that category. This is how you're supposed to be. Oh, you're Don Luis Gutierrez's son? They lift you up to the standards of Luis Gutierrez. Oh, you're Pedro Gutierrez's son? They lift you up to that standard. Is it fair? No, it's not, but good that is there. Because it keeps us in check. Keeps us in check. I know I have to behave myself in Springfield, Massachusetts. I know I have to. Because nothing can get back to that pastor who's been there for 40-something years. Because everybody knows him. Are you getting this? The Bible tells you to honor your father and your mother. If you want to live a long life, honor them. We need to go back to this, people. We need to go back to our homes and try to establish in our children that they need to honor you as a father. And like I said in the beginning, to many children, the parents are an ATM machine. Just give me the code, give me the money. Don't get into my life. Don't speak to me. Speak to the hand. I'll listen to whatever music I want. I'll go to the computer wherever I want. I'll come in the house when I want. I'll leave when I want. And parents have given up. Let me tell you this, and I'm almost closing this one, but let me tell you this. I thank God for DCF workers that do their job and that have a clean heart. I disagree with a department that sometimes is not fair. There are people, and you might find this hard to hear, but there are people that deserve that their kids would be taken away. Because that child would not have a future. But there's other kids that should be back with their parents. And one person makes a decision based on their own feeling rather than evidence. And there's many kids that have been removed. We have over 3,000 kids in the system right now in Connecticut. Hispanic kids. Another 3,000 African-American kids in the system right now, taken away from homes. Some were justified, some were not. It's a battle. No father has any right to be violent against their children. No parent has the right to discipline their child in a way that they would hurt them. But every parent has the responsibility to bring discipline to their children. You need to discipline your child. If you don't discipline your child, let me tell you something. Life will discipline your child. A cop will discipline your child. How could it be that you've never disciplined your child and all of a sudden a cop is smashing your kid's face, talking, this way? That's not right. Discipline your child so that a cop doesn't have to do it. Discipline your child so that the school teacher doesn't have to do it. Discipline the child so that he doesn't end up in jail and people have to discipline his life. Discipline your child. Disciplining your child is not abusing your child. I have a 19-year-old daughter and a 23-year-old daughter. I respect my daughters. I do not go into the rooms unless I knock. I pay the mortgage in that house. I pay the light. I pay the electricity. I pay everything in that house. But I do not go into the room unless I knock at their door. I have a young boy in my house who's 26 years old, soon to be married. Hallelujah. I respect his space. They're here. You can ask them. I respect their space. Jeremiah's a fine young man. I guarantee him, even to Shai. There's days we don't see eye to eye. There's days that he disagrees with me. There's more days he disagrees with me than that agrees with me. But I know something about my son. Close your ears. I know my son honors me. I was impressed a few years ago when I wrote my book and we had to go to Miami and you had to go to a bunch of interviews. And my son was getting upset with somebody. I was afraid that he might get too upset and might do something. My boy. Because I was supposed to have an interview at a certain time, and they skipped me, and they put these musicians, and and they wouldn't give me my chance. And my boy's getting upset. He goes, Daddy, you got to do something. These people are not giving you a chance. He wanted everybody to just get out of the way and let his father be there with that interview with all the TV cameras and all the lights and everything else. And he was just so anxious because they wouldn't give me my opportunity. And I was watching him with the lid in my back here, and I said, boy, and it just brought so much satisfaction to know that my kid was looking out for me. He was looking out for the value of my time. He was trying to tell those people, hey, my father's as much important as anybody else. Why are you bumping him? And I'm here all nervous, saying, I'm going to sing the camera. It's all right that they skip me one more time. And he says, no, they're skipping you again, Dad. I'm going to get up. I'm going to say something. It is those moments in life that count when your son or your daughter stand up to life issues and they stand on solid ground. And yet, at the same time, we might disagree. Oh, I could tell you that Jeremiah and I have had very healthy discussions, very healthy discussions. At his age and my age, I am senior to him, so I know a little bit more. But he doesn't believe so. He thinks he knows more than me. I know he doesn't know more than me. So that struggle in life sometimes just brings a little bit of complication to our conversation. Someone thinking that he has a lot more information, but does he have a lot more knowledge? Yes, because this is a society of a lot of information but little knowledge. I don't have to know anything. All I have to do is Google it. Why do I have to go to a library and study? Why do I have to do research? All I got to do is Google it, and I know it for 1 second, and that's it, because that's all I need to know it for. Well, my generation, our parents knew people that would walk door to door trying to sell you an encyclopedia. My father had an encyclopedia this big. It was the centerpiece of our living room. It was a decoration. We have an encyclopedia. We were proud of it. And every time we had to do homework, we had to do research. We had to know our stuff. Our kids don't know stuff. They just Google everything. But when they talk to you, because they have all that information on hand, they think they know everything. And yet there's a lack of substance. Young people understand I'm not criticizing you guys. I'm just trying to encourage you to know something. Yes, know something. Don't confide just on Googling stuff and just downloading stuff and copying somebody else's thought. Have your own thoughts. Be creative. Use this thing called the mind and the brain. Use it. I'm going to sound very sarcastic, but please, it's not there for decoration. You need to use it. Expand it. Know a little bit about everything and a lot of nothing. A little bit of everything and a lot of nothing. But know something. That you'd be able to speak to an engineer, and you're able to speak to a lawyer, and you're able to speak to a doctor. Know a little bit about everything. And once you know, once you say what you know, then stop the conversation and go on to somebody else. But know about a lot of stuff. This is a society that we've lost. We've lost the ability to be intellectual and to do research and to understand and to know something. I'm on a need-to-know basis only. In life, you need to know about a lot of things, because if not, life will hit you hard. So how do I honor my parents? When they're arguing, I recognize their status. I recognize who they are in my life. And even when I get upset, and I don't know, I think Jeremiah has been upset with me once in 26 years. That was once this morning. Even if he doesn't agree with me, the problem is not that he doesn't agree with me. The problem is that he doesn't remove me from my place of honor. This we must teach this generation, not to remove the adult figure, the authority figure from that place of honor. Let's disagree all that we can and all that we want, but let's not remove our parents from that place of honor. Take that home, come back next week, I got more. Because I haven't finished with honor. I'm going to give you a lot of text about honor. But I want to take this month to try to help you establish solid foundations on how to obey and how to honor.